Hello, guys. I know this is going to be a little bit of a weird stream, but I wanted to react to the presidential debate that went on a couple hours ago. I don't know why, but people keep telling me that I'm an American and that I should give my opinion about it, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and just listen to the last couple minutes of whatever they have to say for like the last hour or so. Yeah, so let's get into it.
Now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him about the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
So goofy.
Give me a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam, and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? And this is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
God. These two, all they do is
President
jab at each other's
Jake,
backs.
both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We
As
saw
a trans person, I think, my opinion, kind of important, just in the sense that
president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
yeah, I don't have ad block on. YouTube Premium. Skip ahead.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earned far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs, cut them in half. We've got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We've got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation. And he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all of the other, all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is
I like
the
how
climate crisis.
they're moderating
2023
them,
was the
not
hottest year in recorded history, and communities
like
across
babying them,
the country are
which is great.
confronting
I
the
love it.
devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end
Not
your
like a lot of
opponent's
their other-
climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every
Doing a little
police
bit of
group
everything
in the
here,
nation
guys, so
from every state
give it some time.
is supporting Donald J. Trump.
I'm giving
almost
my
every police group.
input as much as I
And
can.
what he's
while
done
I'm
to
still
the black
editing here.
population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense
Bro,
at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice
Every
reform
single
and
time
for
I
the
see
historically
Biden,
black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina.
does he forget?
He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left, President Trump. Will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we did.
Everyone has H2O. What are you
all forms of
Bro
energy,
talks
all
like
forms,
he
everything.
knows exactly
and
what
yet,
he's saying, but
during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever, and my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
The one plugin that I
Bro,
want
literally,
to
he
showcase
just
is this
said,
bad boy. It's called the
I
God
just
Particle.
got some
The only
kind of
thing
like some information about this right before I got onto the stage. Like, what are you thinking? Like, bro, how much more information, how much more can you tell people, hey, I know nothing about this, but here's the information that someone just told me about it. It's like, I know, I get it. You're like a president, you're like an important person, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, so you have to have someone else run that for you, but like,
contributors
you don't need to know about what you were talking about.
Laboratories and all
How
that.
can you be
Any
so
black student is capable
sure
in
that
college
you
of
will
doing any
fix
white
it?
student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea
Both of these
that
guys, I don't
he
like
is
them. That's just the
claiming
truth.
to
I
have
don't like
done
Biden. I don't
something
like
to have
Trump.
the cleanest water,
I've never really
They're not
fully
a bad
supported
thing,
one
man.
or the other.
He out of the Paris Peace Accord.
I would say I'm more
Climate Accord.
liberal.
I
I do
immediately joined it.
have
Because
a
if we
party,
hit
but I don't really like talking about it.
Celsius,
But
at
I
any one
find
point,
myself
there's
being
no way
more
back.
liberal
The only
nowadays.
existential threat to humanity is climate change.
I'm actually
and he didn't do a
kind
damn
of tired
thing
of
about
explaining
it.
to
He
people
wants them to
why
do all
I'm
that
like
I've
one or
done.
the other. But
The Paris
more
Accord is going
liberal,
to cost
let's
us
just
$1
say
trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we've not able to, the United States can't get its under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus,
JJ, what's
that
up?
I believe supports, is in fact
I know, it
want to
really
cut
was.
as well.
But I'm still watching it.
We don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the AC, as I
editing
said,
right now, but I wanted to watch this, and I was watching it, and I think it's a
400,000
joke.
people, 40 million
I do
people
like the
do
people
not have
that
insurance
are
because they have a
that
pre-existing
are
condition.
that are
Only
interviewing
allows
them.
them to have that insurance.
They're not like babying
is the
them,
fact
so
that they
I
in
like
fact
that,
are part
to
of
be
the
fair.
ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too.
I'm not
We
gonna
mentioned the
comment.
laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine.
Brother's on
Everything he
something
does
else.
is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
$2,970. That is what I made in a month
I need to
as a
get
smaller
freaking
creator
YouTube
on a.
Premium to
The
get
losers
off the
and sucker
ads.
story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
I've heard so many
But
things
Social
about the black
Security,
community and
he's
so
destroying
many
it
bad
because
things that they don't
millions of
even know
people are
what the hell
pouring
they're
into our
talking about.
country, and they're
And at
putting
this
them onto
point,
Social Security. They're
I'm
putting them onto
I'm
Medicare,
like
Medicaid.
listening to this,
They're putting
and
them
I'm
in
like,
our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens there.
what
What they're
talking
doing
about?
to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
Both of them just sound
He
kind of
doesn't
like
know what he's
idiots, to be
doing.
fair.
And it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
Brings back like
the other thing is
everything that has
he
nothing to
doesn't
do
fire
with the
people.
debate.
He never fired people. I've
Bro,
never seen him fire anybody.
Biden's
I did fire a lot. I
face
fired
keeps
Comey because he
giving
was
me
no
the
good. I
I
fired a
want
lot
to
of the
punch
top
you
people
face.
at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there.
I've
He was
seen
no
both
good.
of their.
I fired him. This guy
I've
hasn't
seen
fired
both of
anybody.
their.
He never fires.
Whatchamacallit?
He should have fired every
I've seen both of their
military man that was
presidencies. They both
involved with
just
that
suck. That's it.
the Afghanistan
That's all I'm gonna say about
horror
that.
show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate.
Okay, he finally said something that's kind of right.
He's the worst president
like,
in the history
sadly,
of our country. He's destroyed our country.
He's kind of
Now
right
all of a
about
sudden it's
that.
trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing
That's
deal,
the only thing
and
that
they
he's
reduced it a little
kinda
bit,
said right.
a little bit, like this much. It's
For real.
insignificant.
For real.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance.
Honestly, that's why I kind of started watching it, and I'm giving
we
my live
probably
reaction
won't have a
because
country left anymore.
I
That's
mean,
how
look,
bad it is. He's the
I'm not
worst
really
in
too
history
big into
by far.
politics. Okay.
Thank you, President Trump.
Okay,
President
right.
Biden.
Let me
We're the
pause.
most
Let me pause real
admired
quick.
country.
Okay, listen, I'm not so big into politics, okay? I will be 100% for real here. I'm not so big into politics. But the thing is, guys, that these two have done very little with the time that they've had. And I mean, listen, if you think about it, 4 years for a country that's been running for 100 plus, 1,000+ years, or whatever you want, like, because it's been since like the isn't it like since the 1650s, I think, when we founded the U.S. I forgot, to be fair. I haven't really been like remembering too much of my history, but I know it was a while back, right? So once we founded the U.S., 4 to 5 years for every president, 4 to 8 years for a president to run. Don't get me wrong, 4 to 8 years is a lot, in like smaller terms. But when you're talking about a whole country, this country has had so much stuff just going on, for who knows how long, that it's not easy to get all of that fixed in just 4 to 8 years. Okay, that's the only thing I will say about being president, that I don't understand why people don't give them a little bit more respect just in that sense. Because it doesn't matter whether you're a good or you're a terrible president, or you're the worst president, or you're a horrible president, or you're the best president to have ever lived. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you did something, okay? Anything. Just leave it there, okay? And I get it. They want to go back into presidency for whatever reasons they have in their little brains, okay? Whatever reason they have in their brains, that's what they want to do with this presidency. And get whatever they want for it. But I don't know. I think it's kind of dumb, but that like made sense was that they're wasting their time doing a presidential debate. That's the only thing I will say.
In the world, we're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact.
We're gonna have a bad time.
That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable.
Breaking them up and like,
just you
okay, cool, we got it, yeah.
We have polling, we have other
let's
things
continue.
that they
I love that.
List
That's amazing.
because what he's done is so bad.
I love that.
And they rate me. I'll show you. I will show you.
Give them
and they
all
rate
the
me one of
time
the
in
best,
the world
okay?
to freaking talk
and
all their smack to each
4
other.
years, I will be the best.
Like
I
they
think
were
I'll
doing
be the best. Nobody's ever
beforehand
created
in the
an
last
economy
couple
like
debates.
us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times.
Sadly.
Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class.
Just increase is going to be inevitable.
Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
The presidential election because I was watching it by myself, but I was editing as well. So I was like listening to it, and I was just getting mad by myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stream it.
He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Both of the parties this year are terrible.
We were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way.
I'm not like too politically
and then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not
Talk
only
to me.
the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk
I
about
don't think that's true.
gotaways.
I think it's fine
But
to
the
add.
numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and
That
byproduct
little like
fentanyl went
flickering
down
in
for
the
a
white
while.
little part, like
And
right
I
here.
wanted to make sure we use the
I don't know if
machinery
that's
that
from
can
my
detect
computer or
fentanyl.
if that's from
These big
the
machines that roll over everything that comes across the border.
from the video.
And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this
But
bipartisan
personally,
deal.
I don't
More
support any
fentanyl machines, more
either or of the
be able to
parties, to
detect
be fair.
drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done. Hard
Biden's
negotiations
dumbfounded
with Mexico,
face.
and I got it all for nothing. It's just
Yeah,
like when
they're
you have a
both
hostage.
terrible.
We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy.
I find it
And
funny when I
he's
see
over
Biden,
there
he's
because
like-
Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for
And
billions
then
of
Trump
dollars
goes,
for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon
their
as I take
facial
office.
expressions
Before I
are
take office, I
hilarious,
said
brother.
by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had two cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got
just
58
forgot where he
people out,
was.
and I paid essentially nothing.
Replay Poker.
Bro, so much
As
freaking
many of
ads.
you have seen, because I've streamed it before,
Bro, why are you guys
Thank you,
putting
President
ads
Trump.
on
Dan?
this stuff? Well,
Let's
I
turn
mean,
to
it makes
concerns
sense,
that voters
that's how you
have
get
about
your
each
freaking
of you. President Biden, you would be 86
money.
at the end of your second term. How do you address
doing
concerns
laundry.
about your capability to handle the
doing
toughest
laundry,
job in the
editing,
world
and watching the
well into
presidential
your
debate.
80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half
And
my
I haven't
career
gone to
in-
bed, and I need to go to
in
bed because I
politics.
still
I'd
have
be the
stream
youngest
tomorrow at 11 in
person
the morning.
in politics. I was the second
But I was
youngest
like, I
person
need to
ever
edit,
elected to
and I
the
need to
United States
finish the
Senate.
laundry.
And now
Or at
I'm
least
the
like get
longest. This
more than
past 3
halfway
years
through
younger
it.
and a lot less competent.
I still have
I
like
think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look,
at
I've
least,
turned
like,
around the
one more
horrible
load and I should be
situation
able to
you
go to
left
bed.
me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs,
they call
more
him Sleepy
investment in
Joe for a
America.
reason. I mean,
Over
like, I'm not
billions
trying
of
to be
dollars
mean
in private
anymore
investment.
because I don't think like you should be mean to
in
people,
enterprises that we are
even if
growing.
it's like a president. Like I was
By the
saying
way, we
earlier,
brought off a lot of
I
people.
think people kind of
the
are
whole
mean
idea
to
of
like
computer
presidents.
chips. We used to have 40%
But if
of
you
the
really
market.
think about it,
We
we've
invented
had
those
this
chips,
country for
and we lost
let's
it
say
because
300
he was
plus
sending
years,
people
right?
to
The U.S. has been founded for 300 plus
and
years.
bring home a product.
And
So
I'm pretty
went-
sure
I
that
went to
I
South
have a
Korea.
couple
I
hundred years
convinced
missing in
Samsung
there.
to invest billions of dollars here in
But
the United States. And they're,
if you really
guess
look
what?
at it in
Those
perspective,
fabs, they call them,
4 to 8
to-
years to fix
to build these chips,
280
those fabs pay over
plus years
$100,000. You don't need a
of
college degree for
dumb
them.
stuff
And there's
and things that we
billions,
have had to
about
fight
$40
for
billion
ourselves
already being
because of
invested and being
everything
built
that we
right
have
now
been
in the United States,
building up
creating
for years.
significant jobs for Americans
You
all over
cannot,
from all over the
you
world.
cannot be like
President Biden,
rude
you
to
have
people just
40
because
seconds
they
left.
can't
Would you like to
fix
add anything?
Yeah, I would.
200 plus
The
years
idea
of
that somehow
stupidity from
we
other
are this failing country.
presidents.
I never
Even
heard a
some presidents
talk like
that
this
did really
before.
good stuff, you know?
We-
There are
we're the
presidents that did
envy
like
of God. Name
really
me a
great stuff in the
single
small
major
amount of time that they
country
were,
president
you know,
didn't
presidents.
trade places with the
Bro,
United States of America.
bro, my hats
All
off to them.
problems
As a
and all
president, if you
opportunities.
get to like
We're the most
really
progressive
put your
country in the
shoes
world
on
getting things
and get
done.
your stuff
We're the
done
strongest
and
country
put
in the world. We're a country
like
in the world
your
that keeps our word.
cojones
and
in,
everybody
and you go,
trusts us.
yeah, I'm
All of
gonna
our allies.
get stuff done. Bro, my hat's off to you as a president because that just shows that you are actually wanting to put
they don't want
make a difference. in this
Thank
this
you.
country.
Former
Both of
President
these
Trump,
guys
to
just
follow
look
up,
like
you
they're
would
just
be
trying to
82
get
at the
like
end
some
of your
kind of
second
like
term. What
what's
do
the
you say
word
to
for it?
voters who have
They want to
concerns
get
about
something
your
out of the
capabilities
presidency.
to serve?
I don't
Well, I
know
took
what
2
Trump
tests, cognitive
specifically
tests. I
now
aced them,
wants from the
both of
presidency.
them, as
I'm
you
guessing
know.
what he's
We made
always
it public.
wanted
He
and
took
what
none.
he's
I'd
been
like to see
saying
him
that he
take
wants
one,
is
just one,
retribution
a
or
real
whatever.
easy one.
And
Like,
then
go through the first 5
and then
questions. He couldn't do
Biden,
it.
he just wants to
But I
have
took 2
his last 4
cognitive
years
tests. I
of
took
like chilling and
physical
being in
exams
office
every
and going
year.
golfing, I guess,
And, you know,
and just
we knock on
you
wood
know, and
wherever we
doing
may have
whatever
wood,
he's doing. Because I
that
know
I'm in
that as a
very good
president, you
health. I
still have
just
to do
won
other
2
stuff.
club
But he's
championships, not
old,
even
bro.
senior. 2 regular
Brother
club
is
championships. To
old.
do that,
He is
you have to
most
be
probably
quite
tired. He
smart,
wants to
and
be
you have to
in
be able
bed
to hit the
right
ball a long
now. I'm
way.
pretty sure
And
that
I
right
do
after
it. He
this
doesn't do
debate,
it. He can't hit a ball
dude went
50
to
yards. He
bed.
challenged
Like
me
he
to a
got on
golf
Air
match.
Force One
He
and
can't hit a
knocked
ball
out.
50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel
For
that
real.
I'm as in good a shape as I was
Yes.
25,
Yes,
30 years
JJ.
ago. Actually,
You're
I'm
right.
probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen
Honestly,
anybody
I've
ace them.
always wanted
Thank you.
to see if maybe
President
later
Biden?
on in my
You can
life,
see he is
I would run as a
6'5"
president.
and only 225
The only reason
pounds,
why I
or
wouldn't mind
235
running as a
pounds.
president, okay?
Well, you
The
said
only reason I
6'4",
wouldn't mind running as a
300.
president is because
Well,
I feel
anyway,
like I
that's
could
enough.
actually
Anyway,
do.
just take a look
Oh,
at what
Josh,
he says
what's
he
up?
is and
The
think
only
of
reason
what
I
he
feel
is.
like I could
Look, I'd be
actually.
happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Oh, accidental.
But by the way,
For real,
I
bro.
told you before,
I
I
barely
have
get like
football,
5
I
hours a
carry my
night,
bag.
which sucks.
Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8
Josh from
handicap.
Josiah.
8.
Damn, you got
Well,
two
you-
Bible
you-
names in
you-
there.
I've seen you swear
Joshua
that
and
you swear.
Josiah.
Let's not act
Your
like
parents
children.
must be very religious.
Let's not act like children.
You
To
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political
I like how
violence
they're
in any
dealing
form
with the
is
debate, though.
unacceptable?
Like, they're not just
Well, I
being
shouldn't
like
have to
children.
say
Like,
that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my
no,
statements
they're like,
that I made on Twitter
chill
at the
out,
time,
let me talk.
and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden,
Yeah,
you would
yeah,
say
I'm
it's one of
not
the
that
strongest statements you've ever
I
seen.
would say
In
I'm
addition to the
spiritual
speech
more
I
than
made
religious.
in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president
What is
because I
this
wouldn't
dude
be here
talking
right
about?
now.
Didn't they just find him on a
many places,
a
enjoying
crap ton
myself.
of
I
accounts
wouldn't be
of,
under
like,
indictment because I wouldn't have been his political
basically,
appointment.
yeah, I'm
opponent.
not even
Because
like
he
in
indicted
the
me
court. They found them
because I
guilty
was
for
his
a bunch of
opponent.
stuff, right?
I wish he was
I
a
know
great
that.
president.
Okay, don't
I
get me
would
wrong.
rather have
Sometimes
that.
the civil
I
court
wouldn't be
isn't
here.
the
I
best.
don't mind being here. The
Okay,
only reason I'm here
there
is
is
he's
a
so
lot of
bad
ways
as a
to take
president
advantage of
that
the
I'm going to
civil
make
court.
America great again.
But at the
We're
end
going
of
to
the
make
day,
America great again.
They
We're
made
a
their
failing
decision
nation right
in
now.
court,
We're a
and
seriously failing
they
nation.
accounted him for a
And we're a
couple
failing
crimes,
nation
right?
because of him.
32
His
accounts of
policies are
crimes.
so bad.
How can you
His
say that he
military
wants it to be a
policies are
fair
insane.
debate? I mean,
They're
a fair
insane. These are wars that will never
vote
end with him.
if
He will drive us into
he
World
was
War
literally,
III, and we're
you know,
closer to World War III
bro,
than anybody
they
can
both
imagine. We are
just
very,
look
very
like
close to
they're
World War III,
regurgitating
and
things
he's
from
driving
all
us
of their
there. And
their
Kim
their
Jong-un
PR teams.
and President Xi of China,
Both
Kim
Biden
Jong-un of
and
North
Trump
Korea,
look like all they're doing
all
is
these
regurgitating
Putin, they
words
don't
from their
respect
PR
him.
team.
They don't
I
fear
know
him.
it might
They
sound a
have
little bit mean, but
nothing
it's the
going with
truth.
this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5.
Biden's
Attack on one is attack on all.
like sometimes I
Required
think, does he
response.
open up his eyes
The
that much
idea-
because he feels
the
like he's
idea-
falling asleep?
I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places
Right?
with the job
Are
I've
these
done,
comments
what they
about
do.
his eyes looking
Because
tired
we're a
get to him?
powerful nation.
That
We're
could also
wonderful. It's
be
because of the people.
a reason
It's
why he
because
does
of the American
that,
people.
or
They're
why he's
capable
been
of
doing
anything,
that
and
more
they step up
recently.
when they're needed. And right right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
I think I was thinking
Just to
like
finish
Jason
what
Ward.
he said, if I might.
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25.
Am I going to be able to teach a cat how to read and write? No, I'm good. Oh, my computer's like, I'm done. I don't know why it's taking a minute to load in. Usually the video's loading quickly. It's so weird.
Russia,
There we go.
they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing
doesn't look any
from
better
Trump,
now, though,
nothing. He knew
to be
not
fair.
to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew
The
not to
hair
play
still
games.
looks like
He took nothing from
like
me.
he just put on like a wig.
But now he's going to take the whole thing
Alright, this is the wig for
from
today.
this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine.
I'm not saying he's wearing
And
a wig. I'm
you
saying
asked me a
that his
question
hair
before.
looks
Would you
like
do this?
he just went,
He's got us in such a
for
bad
today.
position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, "I will never settle until such time." They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week.
Maybe.
But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country.
His hair is
I
a
would
little
be
bit more
very happy
orange
to be
last,
someplace
like, 6
else,
years
in a
ago, I
nice
guess.
location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the
Continuing
country. Not
with the
one
belittling
single
of each
court
other.
in America said any of your claims had any merit,
That's insane.
state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Oh, it was in Georgia? For real. They're both kind of just
President
like reading off
Biden,
the
you have
script.
2 minutes.
Oh, wait, my bad. I'll try and bring it back a little bit. Bro, that's insane. I'm sorry, but I can't let you say that in chat. Oh my god, my computer's just not having fun right now. It's so slow. Alright, I think I got it. Sorry. And it's taking me a minute, but I'm just trying to get it right. At the right
Deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden, you have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that
I'm
was
sorry,
left
but that word,
of
even
President Trump
how you spelled it,
his
does not
last term.
sound good.
We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, I think the tax system is fair.
And honestly,
The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for
actually, that wouldn't make any sense.
Big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal deficit.
Honestly, okay. I will say one thing about what Biden's doing. He's kind of making sure that when he gets out of the presidency, he has all the medication and everything he needs.
10 years, because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Crazy sounds in here.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever.
I'm just saying because it wouldn't make sense
Ukraine
for someone
should have never happened. He talks about all the stuff that he didn't do. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell.
And then for someone to say, "Oh, you said the racist,"
and we have everybody else.
Racist is not a bad word.
You talk about Charlottesville.
Is not a bad
this
word.
is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. Our whole country is exploding because of you. Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves. And they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden.
Alrighty then, that was the end of that. Do you guys want to watch? What is this, like a highlight thing?
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 billionaires in America.
For the highlights.
Billionaires in America.
It's only like 6 minutes. I'll finish it. I wanted to like kind of give it like a little bit.
8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with
I don't know.
with the COVID. Excuse me, with
usually people that are don't like that word. You know what I mean?
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second.
All
We
right,
have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? As far as Israel and Hamas.
Oh yeah, when they talked about the Israel thing, it was so weird. They both just sounded like they didn't want to do anything about the Israel problem. They both sounded like they were just like,
Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only
Oh,
one
yeah,
that wants to keep going
that's
is
there.
Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean.
we
if
should-
we're ever able to avoid a war in
I don't know
Europe,
about
a major war in Europe,
both of them,
what happens if,
but
in
I
fact,
don't
you
think
have
that pulling out of
continue to
NATO
go
would be a
into
smart
NATO?
decision.
We have an
to
Article
be fair.
5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department
I've noticed that about Trump. That's the only thing I will say, that he likes to, instead of talking about the problem and what's going on, he likes just throwing the blame onto other people, even if he has nothing to do. If that person has nothing to do with what's going on, he just likes to throw up people's names. Oh yeah, this person is a felon and they've been convicted and they've so then this and this and this, and okay, yeah, but what does that have to do with what you were trying to say? With what you were trying to bring up about what happened with your conviction and, you being convicted of X and X, what happened here and there?
let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before.
I know people think that
in our histories.
People think, all right, this is what I will say. People think that whatever your family or whatever anyone around you does has to do with you. I personally, when I think about whatever's going on, I think these are the people that might be connected to you, but that has nothing to, especially when you're running for presidency, okay? I don't think you're thinking about your children when you're being a president. Like, I'm pretty sure 99.999% of presidents have never thought about their children when they're president because they're thinking about a country. Supposedly, that's how it should be, right? So if your children are doing something and they're older than freaking 35 years old or anything older 20, why should that be your problem? You know what I mean? I don't know. Just think about it a little bit.
Like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties?
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being
I feel like he
accused of
might
being the
die
youngest
halfway through his
person
presidency.
in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing.
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. Kareem, I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
All right, I'm going to stream after this, though.
I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
I need to put this,
take this
clothes out, put it to dry.
He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
And then I'm going to bed.
8.
But I already have like 6 videos uploaded.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing. Let's not act like children. Let's not act like children.
Thank you. That's the only thing he says that's kind of interesting. Let's not act like children. You both act like children. Sorry. But it's the truth. But yeah, I've had a bunch of videos like uploaded. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah. Alright guys. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for watching. I love y'all. Have a good night. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Bye.